It's Ron Reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe. And tonight, I could have been MAGA. I saw on Facebook a couple of days ago how two people I knew in high school are now engaged. The guy I think I've talked about on this show before, an 80s authentic punk rocker who ultimately destroyed his life by becoming conservative. Very disappointing. The woman, as I recall, hung with a sort of new wave proto-goth crowd back in the day, but maybe I'm misremembering. At any rate, she was a sweet girl, but now she's MAGA. I know that she's MAGA because the only kind of person a MAGA person can marry is another MAGA person. MAGA people can only love each other when they hate the right people together. Political differences these days are moral differences, and I don't think a marriage can survive contradictory moral priorities. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but if she hasn't gone MAGA, I bet it's going to be a shitty marriage. We'll see. But you know, all of that got me thinking, though, their backgrounds are extraordinarily similar to my own background. You know, Texas, Kingwood, white, well-to-do suburbs, Republican, and even Southern Baptist, as I recall. I think I might have seen one of them being baptized at one point. They're MAGA. Much of my family is MAGA. A lot of my former high school classmates are MAGA. But why not me? Sometimes I wonder if there's a Ron with a beard or some such on Earth 2 or Earth X or in Star Trek's mirror universe, and that guy's MAGA. Because back in the day, I wouldn't have ever thought of myself as a racist, but today I'm quite certain that I was. I was low on compassion for outgroups, believing I was practicing a sort of evangelical love, which isn't love at all. I thought the poor deserved it. I thought other peoples and nations to be inferior. I always supported U.S. military action abroad without a question, and so on. I'm still not quite sure how all that changed. And, you know, I'd like to say that it's just because I'm a good person, but you know, looking back on it, there were some influences, you know, the Beatles, of course, the 60s more generally, you know, just sort of loomed over my childhood every bit as much as the hyper-patriotism of World War II did. So there were cracks in the facade from at least 5th grade, if not earlier, you know. I mean, I was feasting on Star Trek in preschool. On the other hand, all these experiences were shared by my age group and demographic, and most of them went MAGA. For that matter, I was definitely a liberal by the time I had finished college, which is, of course, so cliched, but lots of MAGA have been to college. What the fuck happened to me? You know, I can't ever be really sure, but my guess is there were likely two factors that saved me from going MAGA. Anti-authoritarianism as a sort of instinctive philosophy of life, maybe because I'm a middle child, and studying the theater, which at its most essential is an exercise in deep compassion and empathy. And the theater put me in constant contact with all kinds of artists whose life mission it is to understand and critique the condition of humanity. I encountered gay culture, black culture, Latin culture, feminist culture. I learned about the struggles of oppressed peoples, and my inborn anti-authoritarianism gave me the strength and wherewithal to say no to a great deal of what I had been taught about the world in which we live. To be honest, I think I just got lucky with my rebellious nature and love of the theater. That is, I didn't really try to become a leftist. I just ended up with the right people in the right situation where, rather than being brainwashed by liberal professors in the way about which conservatives fantasized, I was exposed to new ideas and ways of thinking that just seemed superior to anything I had gotten before that. Luck, grace of God, whatever you want to call it, but for circumstances, I could have ended up as big of a MAGA savage as any of them. In so many ways, I feel so sad for so many of these MAGA people who didn't have the kind of experiences I had. I look at them and I see myself as I might have been. Ron with a beard and a truck and a gun and a red hat in the mirror universe. As we rightfully rage against their inhumanity, we must also remember their humanity. We should never forget that even while they victimize others, they are victimizing themselves. We must do this in order to be true to our own sense of humanity. Happy holidays, everybody. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.